And I started, let's see, I started making a list of things. Okay. Oh, yeah, and that was also about the modules.
And Matt, I see that you joined too. I think we'll probably try to make sure we save some time to get to some of the questions you sent me. Oh.
Okay, thanks. But yeah, if you can't get to them, that's fine.
Quentin, can you just read through Matt's questions?
Okay, sure. Yeah, let me just, Matt, would you rather read it, or do you want me to? I have your email here too, so it's up to you.
Oh, if you have it right there, that would save a second. I'll look it up too. Whatever you prefer.
Okay. Just well, actually, I'm going to find the email, but either way, it's the same. Find it very quickly. Okay.
So who can find it first?
So autocomplete. That's a great question, and I really like that one. I don't know a good answer to it yet. So the question is,
what's the question?
Can you use a text field with auto completion if you have the options in some kind of list that's not an email or not an address location? Google Autocomplete. I think that, well, it's definitely not built into Docassemble, so you're going to be using some custom JavaScript. I believe somebody on the channel had mentioned that exact task before, and it's also like a really well-trodden path in web development, so you're not going to have to write something from scratch, really. You're just going to find a library out there and adapt it to work with Docassemble.
Okay.
Multiple document assembly, there's lots of options to do that. We do that in Made. So, and I chose to present it as not using the built-in Docassemble list for multiple documents. So I kind of made my own custom one to have a little more control over the formatting. You can there's lots of options for that. You can definitely do more than one document at a time.
Okay.
And there's different ways to control what the document, how you choose which documents to assemble to.
Would multiple document assembly include being able to do some as PDFs and some as Word docs? And
sure. Yeah, you could do whatever kind of file. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then let's see, reviewing screens. I can show you some review screens. It's manual, so you're kind of writing your logic twice. But review screens don't have to be starting from scratch, I guess. You could, like, if you only have 5 screens, the way the review screens work is that you access them generally by like a section label on the left, the navigation bar sections. You could take someone right back to the page where they input information, and if that has all the information, that can be a review screen. But usually what you do is you write kind of a summary of the input and you let people edit it with a special button. And that takes some work. So you're almost rewriting the interview, and you have to make sure to update it in both places to do review screens. So, I think there could still probably be some ways to improve that process compared to what there is right now. But the problem is Docassemble interviews can do so much that if you just try to kind of automatically generate them, you might violate something that's happening in the background, some external effect that it's having. would run twice and just not do what you expected it to do. It might be nice to let you auto-generate them for the simple interviews where you're really not worried about those things, but it's not possible right now.
Right, but okay. Yeah, no, it's good. I don't know, have you found the better practice is to just have a review screen that would display them and then let people go back to the question to adjust, or to let them do the editing on a page with a bunch of answers?
Here, if it's okay, Carolyn, you want us to just stay on this for a second? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I'll show you using an interview from Made, and let me see if I don't know if I can easily find one that's already in progress. We'll have to go through a couple screens. So, because we won't actually be able to review anything until we've gone through a few of these.
You have to give some answers before you review them, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Is your browser just keeping some of your answers in there, or do you have default answers in there now?
I don't think there are any defaults. There are some defaults in there. The ones that we had so far, there's some defaults. I'm also clicking.
But like you have your name in there already. Is that from your browser? I mean,
oh no, it's because I'm logged in. So it comes from my account.
Oh.
That I'm logged in with. So let's see. I think now we should have a couple of things we can change. Okay. So this is how review screens work. I'm clicking on one of these sections on the left here. And you can kind of use regular Docassemble formatting code to display whatever summary you want of the information. And when you click the green button, it lets you change that field. It tries to find the definition of that again.
And that takes you back to the first question you answered, right? This isn't another question.
You tell it which fields you want it to change when you click the update button. So you could have this summarized like 5 different things, which are on 2 screens, and it would let you update all of those things before it takes you back to the field.
The update screen. You don't have you click the button, and does it take you to a specific? You don't have another question with that. You take it. The update button takes you back to the questions that you answered, right? Or are you
Correct.
saying that?
That's right. Yeah. When I said it was double the work, it's really only about making this summary screen. So it's not really double. It's a lot simpler.
Right.
I'll show you what the source code looks like too. So the screen's a little simpler. You list the variables you want to have changed. Sometimes you want them to be recomputed. So I think I might not have really needed that whole list. I think that was me testing something and not going back and removing it. So you list the field that needs to be updated, and then you choose what you want to say about that field, like the value of it. So this is actually a good reason to customize it too. I think you do have more control over the user experience that way. And often you do want to reflect back what someone told you in a different way than you want them to provide it the first time, because you want to show how you responded and reacted to it and what the impact of it is on the review screen, not just, you don't want to just necessarily show them a list of all the questions and the answers exactly the way they were originally presented.
Right. So if you, sorry if I may have missed this, if you click on one of the updates and then you go to one of those screens and maybe make an adjustment to get back into the interview, where you, or is your next place to go from there, you did continue and then it would automatically resume?
Mm-hmm.
So if you, okay. So if you click, can you go back to the About You or About Your Landlord, one of those, and then do one of the updates? Okay, so if you hit continue here.
It should, so I don't know why, I think I probably had some logic bugs there too. So, I mean, because it was, I don't think it should be taking me here because I hadn't finished the whole thing. But I must have said, oh, you also need to know the definition of this other question, and I probably shouldn't have. Anyway.
So in theory, are you supposed to carry on through the interview, or are you supposed to come back to the review page and then resume?
You're supposed to you're supposed to go back to the review screen to see what you changed and that it was updated.
Right.
Then you click resume, and it takes you back to the interview in progress.
Right. So that's what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Yep. And you should also add a menu option here, like this one, that lets you access it if the person's on mobile.
Oh, instead of, do they not have the navigation on the left if they're on mobile?
Correct. There's just not really room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can show you, let me think. I think I have one more I could show you. So like I said, so these don't have to be a special review screen. You can have these links take you to the screen where the information was first set, but then you don't have the ability to say, review multiple things through that link, but you could have it be like, here's the section, that first click takes you to the first page, and then underneath it are all of the individual pages. And then you don't have to write two sets of screens, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You could avoid writing the review screen if you want this click to take someone exactly back to the page that they were just on with the information they're ready to edit.
But they haven't, if they don't have a review screen, they may not know they want to correct it, right?
Right.
If you don't say to them, this is what you said,
mm-hmm.
That's what your review screen is, right?
That's what
this is what, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can't tell people what it means, because sometimes you want to be able to reflect that back to people. One more thing you could do is you could do a TurboTax style where the review screen pops up just when you're clicking through the interview. You could have a review screen that shows at the end of every section that summarizes what they put in so far. So you don't have to have it be through this navigation method.
Okay. Could you have a final review section of the interview in the navigation, like right before the conclusion, just so they could then see, these are your answers about you, this is about your landlord, about your case?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you could even mix the two. You could definitely mix them by having them go to different pages. But I think you could mix them even without having to copy and paste the same. If it's going to basically be the same fields, you have a couple of options there. And basically what these are, it's a special button that tries to get the definition of that information, and having it be in the review screen format saves you some time. So if you really, and that is built in with the section navigation and with the in the middle of the interview style, you don't have to do as much work. But if you wanted to customize it even more, you could. You could have just a regular question and have a little button there that basically does the same thing as that green button does here. Oh.
Yeah. No, I like...
Very flexible.
Yeah, I like the review screen and how it looks and works, and I also appreciate that you can provide slightly different context for their answers, because I think that'll help them understand it better and also show that the program is capturing the correct information and understanding it, as it were.
Yeah. So just make sure you I think that is really the best option. And if you're going to design it, you're going to have to design it, but just make sure you set aside time for it. I guess that's maybe the best takeaway. It's not a free process. I think that Dorna's software, I think they have it generate the review screens automatically, but it's a much more limited set of fields you can access with it. You can't do as many of the things as regular Docassemble.
Yeah, I think I saw a demo of it, or I saw some people that used it a few weeks ago, and it was at the end of the interview. Maybe they put it there, but it was kind of like this, but it was even more bare bones, just like for name, you said this, blah, 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 and then you could go back and edit. And I think it would also or always lead you back to the original page where you entered the information for the first time. It wasn't like an inline editor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the way this works too. It takes you back to the screen.
Yeah, but that's nice. Looks good. Cool. Thank you for showing me that.
Oh, and your last question was about tagging, and the answer to that is you can tag questions. I think I have them tagged here. Not this one wouldn't be, but for Google Analytics. And I just started doing that, so we're not capturing those on at first I only had a few key screens that were tagged, and then I did it on all of them because that tag is also used for tracking like translations. So you just give it an ID like this,
Yeah.
and that gives it a tag in Google Analytics. So you won't see very many. Actually, I think I have Google Analytics turned on for our dev site too, so you could probably see it there. And you can track drop-off by like a screen by screen basis that way. That's probably what you're asking for, right? So
yes, yeah, that's exactly what we'd love to see.
Yes, and you can definitely do that. We haven't really made really good use of our analytics. I feel bad giving Google all this information and we're not using it for anything yet. But it's there in theory.
Well, think about it this way. You give Google all this information and they make the internet better for everybody, right?
In theory.
That's the hope.
Try to be optimistic about it.
Yeah, no, I like it.
So this should be able to show you. Yeah, see, so it kind of makes this synthetic URL for you. Because you can see like the regular navigation, it just has that, hashtag, page, number. But when you tag it, it gives you these pages like this.
Are those your tags? Jury trial address, your name, how to answer. Are those your IDs?
Yep.
So you just have to add that to every question.
Yes. It's a good practice anyway. If you're going to translate the system, if you're going to do Google Analytics, or I think there's another competitor to Google Analytics that Docassemble supports. I forget what it's called. Those are the main reasons. Even code blocks are good to tag because then Docassemble avoids running them twice in certain situations. So it's a good habit. And it'll make it easier for you to find your question. Even if you change the field names, you can always look for the tag that tells you the name of the question.
Yeah. And I suppose when you're testing, can you display the ID so that people can say on this question? Yeah,
that's the other thing I forgot to say. We're doing that for our VLP interview.
Okay.
So, yes, it's not like built in, but you can access it in JavaScript. So we made that a field that shows when you're in testing mode. And I don't have a good example of that, but think about where the URL for that would be. So that's very helpful for testing for sure. I think this one that. No. Not that one. This one. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Object.
So how do you turn that on? So in this YAML, you have every question has an ID, including the code blocks. Is that what you're saying? And then is it just features? It's not just features debug JS. Is it more than that, right? Oh, I see. It's your default screen parts.
It's those, lines 14 through 22 here. Those are the ones that make it show.
Those are the ones that make it show, right?
Yeah.
And why did it say object? Do you have an ID there somewhere?
I'm guessing that it has something, because I haven't tested this interview in a little while.
Yeah.
It's something that might have broken in the newest version of JavaScript, of Docassemble, is my guess. I think we were the only people using it. Jonathan added that feature for us.
Oh, I see.
I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Because this page, let's see, does it have an ID tag? Yeah, it does. So it should be showing client name right there, and I know it did when we first set it up. So I'll have to figure that out. Let's see if there's a JavaScript error or something. No. So we don't know why it's not working. I can show you like the debug. This is open source, so you could just copy this, but there, it's really simple. It's just saying load this element every time the page loads.
Oh, that's your static file, and then your YAML is calling this debug. Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll be interested to know if you find a good solution for the auto completion, like a general one that could be shared with people. That would be great. We could look for it's basically so Docassemble uses jQuery, very mature library for getting data in the browser without having to refresh the whole screen. And that's just exactly what this problem is. Let's see if we can find. Well, there you go. It's actually called Autocomplete. I bet we could use this. This is what you want to do, right? Something like this. And it wouldn't be too hard to implement that. So here, you just have to make this variable available inside the HTML of the page. So you could store your list there and then have it be completed by the JavaScript. That would be a really easy way to do it. Or you could set it up.
Oh,
so
you would have your own. You'd have your own list, Quentin. You wouldn't have Google's list or Grammarly's list or anything.
Correct. Yeah. So inside in the in JavaScript in a Docassemble interview, you can access some of the variables from Docassemble. So you would just basically the same as this, but instead of it saying var available tags equals hard coding the list, it would be refer to the Docassemble variable that has that. That would be a simple way. That would work for a small list. If you're talking about thousands of entries, that would probably not really work as well. But to help someone autocomplete a court name or something, a county, something like that, it would be probably perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that what you were thinking, Matt? Is that the kind of autocomplete you were thinking?
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing I was thinking. But I'm not sure about the scope. See, I was envisioning this in an expungement tool, and I was trying to see a way if someone, for when they're entering what the charge was, so possession of a controlled substance or something like that, they could just type POSS and it could show all the different possessions there. And they could select it from that, or if they just did controlled and same things like that. Thing is, I'm hoping I can somehow from the courts get that list, because they've already developed that and maintained it in digital form. And but I have no idea if they make it available to anyone outside of the court system. That's the issue. So I don't know. I mean, if we still have to work that out, and this is still just in the dream phase. But I mean, because right now expungement programs, you just have to look at your rap sheets or court dispositions and then copy things, type by hand what it is. But I would love it if it could do that automatically, or you could even use the number of the statute, things like that, so it'll know, because then we could have the program be smarter about figuring out, oh, this is something you're only eligible for expungement or sealing, and so we can skip a bunch of questions because we know exactly what the offense is. So that was kind of what I was hoping to do, but just seeing this, and this autocomplete could be used in a variety of contexts.
Matt, what state are you from again?
Illinois.
Illinois, right. Just because I think that's a great idea, because we have a whole section on reading your criminal record information, because it's so hard to read. It's so hard for people to read in the first place because of all these codes. Mm-hmm. But we do have the code. I mean, our criminal record person is actually at GBLS with Quentin, and she's like Ms. Corey, and she has a list of all those codes. But it is hard for people. That would be really a great idea to be able to do that. So yeah, but couldn't you create that sort of manually? I mean, if you did enough work with people who are trying to seal their records or expunge their records, don't you sort of have an informal list of the codes that the courts put on there, or are they not consistent?
There probably are ways we can get that from advocates. But
it'd be easier just to have a list.
I mean, they may already have in their own. They may have Excel spreadsheets with this information, things like that. But I was wondering if there's. So what I was hoping for is the quote definitive list that the different court clerks use, because that's what's going to show up on the rap sheets and court dispositions. And so, because if they're looking at they'll know exactly. It'll be a match then.
Yeah.
Assuming their records are correct, but that's a separate issue. But you're right. I was thinking if we can't get it directly from the courts, maybe we can get it from other sources. I just have no idea how massive. I mean, if there's only basically 100 or so, that's easier to maintain than if it's 500 or 1,000. Like, I really don't know the scope of our criminal code.
Yeah. I'll see if I'll just have a quick look. It might give you an idea if I can tell you what we have. Ours is very long. Let me just think. How do I read it? Let me just see if it's there.
Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out why that is. Okay, I was gonna try to take you to the screen where you can see the list of downloads, but something with editing that I think might have messed up the interview. I'll have to make sure to look for that bug.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, I wanted to say, like, as you were thinking about this, I was like, oh, I can show you the multiple documents. And I forgot to mention, I mean, you have a lot of options with how you present them to people. But one thing you can do is you can give it to them as a PDF. So even if you have like up to 5 different documents, you can use one PDF that combines them all. So that's what we did, the cover page. So it's easier for someone to print a collated set.
Yeah.
Quentin, I was wondering, when we were talking about who were we talking earlier about? I don't remember, but we were talking about doing this, having I know why I thought we were talking. I've been watching those videos. That's why. It wasn't real.
Hearing my voice.
I was thinking, no. Last time I talked to you, no. So I've been watching those videos over and over again. If say you wanted to do an appendix, so your form is a PDF. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to do an appendix in Word and then deliver it as a PDF, right?
Yes.
So that would be something that could. So from the developer's point of view, the template. All the template appendices could be Word, because then you can format them however you wanted. Yep. And then the user gets them as a PDF appended to their form PDF.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. Yeah, So there's that's not really too different from like combining 2 Word files or a Word file. Yeah. So it's not using the built-in way to deliver the final output, but it's a very simple function. It's just called PDF concatenate. So.
On that, can I ask a question about using maybe some Word macros or other things built into Word?
Great
question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The issue is we have some appellate forms that need to include a table of contents or an index, and we haven't attempted to automate it in Hot Docs yet, at least not seriously, because we keep running into the issue, how do we tell it what page this certain item appears on? But I know Word has some built-in ability to track things. If you tag it, then it'll say, oh, when I put this document together, I see it's now on page 14, so I'll just put that number 14 there. So I don't know if that is something that is currently available or something it could be added relatively easily.
I think it might be there. I'm trying to remember where it is. It's probably one of these question modifiers, or let's see. It definitely exists. To refresh the document before you turn it into a PDF. So basically what it does is it opens it up in the back end. Docassemble doesn't use Microsoft Word. It uses LibreOffice, which is like a free alternative. You might already know about that. But so it will basically it'll open the file in LibreOffice and update the things that can be updated, including fields and things like tables of content. And I'm trying to figure out where. There's definitely a configurable option, so might be under the attachments block.
All right. Well, I can look around for it, but just knowing that it is within the realm of possibility, that is.
Oh, there you go. Using
great.
Tables of contents and other references in Docs tables.
You just have to do update references. True, and I don't want to say you should use Hot Docs, but Hot Docs I think also does have a feature like that you have to turn on, because I believe I've used that before. But just like, I think these features can be a little unreliable sometimes, so you should definitely make sure to test it at a small scale before you rely on it too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the issue, one of the challenges with Hot Docs was the forms were in PDF first, but now that LHI will let us convert a Word doc to PDF before downloading, we have access to these PDF forms in Word format. So we could just generate it in Word, then update the tables of contents and whatever, and then turn it into PDF to make it work. So it's become a little bit easier, but I just wanted to see if it was available in Docassemble too, which it looks like it is.
Yes.
Quentin told me last week, Matt, about these, that you can't use headers successfully in different sections in Word documents. So
yeah, and I didn't know that you couldn't do that. So that actually, I bet we should have told that to Jonathan, and he might have been able to track down the bug. We should mention that, actually.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. That's good.
I was just thinking, if you've got these complicated documents, I'm sure you're going to have headers in them if you're doing them in Word. So that's what that was making me crazy last week.
I do know that you can't put like variable text in the header. So you can't have like a Jinja, like a tag.
Right.
It's a variable in the header. But what you were saying is the header wasn't being updated at all, right? Like you had different first page header and a different from the rest of the document, and it was just...
Yeah, I had a header on the first page and a section break and a different header on the second page. And so it was producing, when it was, in fact, Quentin tested it, and it was producing the first page, but the first page had the second page header. So that was, I kept thinking I was getting the second page, but actually I was getting the second page header. So got rid of the headers and put the headers in the body of the document.
One thing to try sometimes with weird glitches like that is open it in LibreOffice, which is free, so it's not going to cost you any money. And that's
LibreOffice is different from OpenOffice, right? Or is it the new OpenOffice?
It's kind of the new OpenOffice. It's just like it's the same code, but it's updated more and it has a better licensing terms, basically. That's what it is.
Does OpenOffice still exist, or did it just evolve into LibreOffice?
They both still exist. It's kind of like a fork.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah. But LibreOffice is updated regularly. I think OpenOffice is really not anymore.
Okay.
One more thing you could do, let me see, is this under Documents? I believe it is. To see if we can figure it out. You can use instead of using LibreOffice as the engine, you can choose to use this other third-party API that Jonathan included, but it's kind of expensive. Has like a really low tier that's free. So easy to run into that limit. So just gives you options for trying different things. And that probably uses something like LibreOffice in the back end. I don't think it's using really Microsoft Word, but it might have fewer compatibility problems if they're weird formatting glitches you run into. And you're not expecting it to get used a ton. I think the limits are like 1,000 a month or something, 1,000 requests a month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be shocked if we got anywhere close to that just for appellate forms by self-represented litigants, but who knows?
Yeah, it might have been in seconds, actually. It was like you can have a certain number of seconds a month you're allowed to keep their thing busy. So, yeah. Anyway, but you shouldn't need to. I would say, like, if you can try to figure out how to get it to work without doing that, that's better. And I'm blanking on where it is in the documentation. But
can you just do a Control F API on the assembling documents page and see if it'll send you there?
I'm going to see if it's a configuration option.
Oh. Jeez. God, these pages are so long.
Yeah, no, it's not there. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Convert API. So as long as you get an API from this page, API key from this page, and anyway, that's basic. And you put it in their configuration, then it will use this instead. And limits are, like I said, relatively low.
Oh, seconds. Like you said.
1,500 seconds per month, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And then it gets kind of expensive. So you probably don't want to use that if you don't need to. But at least you have options. That's the main point I wanted to show you, is that there's different ways you can get that.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, Caroline, I think we ate until your time quite a bit.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, because mine's probably really basic and stupid. So, I knew I can take up all the time in the world. So I thought, let Matt go through with his stuff, and I can always learn stuff from that. So,
you're not sharing your screen, but I just stopped my share.
Okay.
So you'll be able to now.
All right, wait a minute. Here, am I share here? No, wrong thing. Oh, maybe it'll work.
There you go.
It's like, yeah. Right. I was looking for our codes for Matt to say, oh, we have it, and look at this, the page is broken. So anyway, forget that. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so I started off. Jacqueline and I were testing this thing, Matt. We were trying to we have this horrible form. So you ask about how many children. How many children are in the case, and then you ask about, in this particular case, and their names and ages and all the stuff that you ask about children. And then you ask, basically you want to know if any of these children have been in any other care or custody cases. So if a child has been, then you have to go through the cases that child has been in and various details about the cases. So it's an example of using multiple indices.
Right.
And Quentin did a video on it with us last week, but we focused on something else rather than maybe the very specific thing about the groups.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd let you know. So the thing is, I could not get. Then I just tried. We couldn't get the big interview to work. So why answer all these questions about divorce and all this other stuff? You just want to get the basics. So I tried to break it down, and I just ended up really kind of confusing myself because I thought I understood. For example, I thought that you use this complete attribute if you are asking more than one question. So before you go to the next child, you might have one question. Once the child's birthday is, child's name, question 1. Question 2, child, not that you would do this, but just for an example.
Right.
Child's birthday, question 2. Has child been in any other cases? Question 3. And before you go to the next child, you want to ask all those questions. I thought that's what complete attribute did before you go to the next child. So maybe I've got that wrong.
Is that the question that you have, Caroline? Yeah.
That's one of the questions, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll start with that one. So yes, that's exactly right. That's what complete attribute is for. The only thing that you're missing is that you have to now define this variable complete.
Right. So complete attribute is like a characteristic, and then its name is complete. So do you have another? So would you do something like? Let's see. Do I have it in here already? No. So I'm guessing that what you do, requesting, yes. Okay, go for it.
Okay. Well, did you say you had already had started working on that part?
Yes. I mean, I built this thing, and then I started taking it apart piece by piece because I just couldn't figure it out. So I figure do you do a code block, and for example, you would say the first question would be children name first, and then the second in the code, then the other one would be, what's this question?
Right.
Children cases there are any, and then you would do complete children would it be children I dot complete equals true?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I'm getting the concept. I just,
No, I mean, that's exactly right.
So children I name first. Wouldn't you put children I cases there are any after children dot I name first?
It's a separate question. Oh,
yeah,
I see.
So you've got one question here and one question there.
Yeah, exactly. So you would do that. So we could put this here and just copy that. I wasn't sure of the other variables you needed, but I see it's right there.
Okay, I mean, I've just been chewing on this. You go away and you come back and you think, oh, duh, of course. All right, so I see that was the thing. So you put it in, so you have to put it, you kind of have to put it 2 places. You put it up here in the children, and then you put it in the objects, and then you put it in the code block, which is ordering the way you do things. So if you were going to ask questions about, and that's just ask number and there are any. And I have a question. Does the children I dot cases, should that be in a different objects block, or can it be in the same objects block?
I guess you can try it, and if you have a problem, you're right, it might need to be in a separate objects block.
Because I thought you might have to define
something that's being defined in the same objects block.
Yeah, that's something I just wondered about today also.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben, do you use this, the way you're using this code block down here to list, can you just, all right, so you know how many children you have. So you know that that's an ask number, using ask number. You get a target number there, and then let's see, you've got the target number, ask number, target number. And that's fine. Okay. And then cases, there are any, and is there another? How does that work with gather? The whole idea of auto gather and gather, I keep reading and not getting. And I thought that was if you don't know how many you have, what are you doing with gather versus are there any, is there another? How does the gather thing work?
So I don't think there's any so the gather command, the method. So
I don't really,
comment here, so it's not going to mess with anything else later. That tells Docassemble, go ahead and gather all the items, whatever way they need to be gathered.
Why would you? Why would you
do that? If you refer to this list, like say you refer anywhere to that list of children, depending on how you refer to it, it'll already gather it. So the reason to refer to it explicitly like this is if you want to control when it happens. So if you use that code block at the beginning to control the order of the questions, you might want to trigger it to be gathered at a particular time, in a particular order.
So would you use children.gather in a code block? Where would you put that?
I use that really in that opening code block that controls the order of my interview. Okay,
so would you use, say you were talking about divorce and client's name and everything. Would you use would you have these three children I.name first cases are incomplete equals true as well as children.gather, or you just wouldn't use children.gather?
It's really only if you, it's like a shortcut. So it does like the there are any and complete or not gathered. Right, basically, but it also works if it's a different type of list. If it's not the kind where you're gathering the items with there are any.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make
say we're doing if you're not doing one. So I could use so this thing is with here. I would do children. You could do children.iname first. Say you had a bunch of fields in there, so that would get that question. Then you would do children I cases there are any. With that, and then say you do children there are cases there are any, and then you have another question because if it's yes there are any, you would have yet another question. It would say docket number, court, status, all that. So you would put that one of those fields after cases there are any, because you would want to ask that question. How would you know to go back into, and then you would do there is another. But if you do there is another, would you put that in this code block, the order of children here? Children I dot cases?
If it's for this, like it's a list that's part of the bigger list, right? That's what you're talking about? There is another?
Well, right, so you're going to go through your list of cases. So I guess you say if there are any. So in here, would you say if there are any, then you'd ask the questions about the cases.
Yep, that sounds right to me.
But you would say an if, right? You'd say if. Oh, children cases. Yeah, so that's how do you know when the cases are, oh man, this is the thing. So you've got your case. You want to go through your case. When do you know the cases are complete? Before you go to the next child. So what triggers going to the next child? Oh, children I complete. Right.
Yeah, or you could just do it like this. I think it depends on, I don't know if you can call a function here. That might work though. Instead of doing it like that, right? Like the whole point here is I wanted to show you this. So like here, lines 30 through 32. That's the same. It's the equivalent to line 34. most of the time. If you're using the there are any and there is another way to gather your list.
Oh, I see. So you could do children I dot cases gather.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
shortcut.
you got that. Yeah. Right.
Try it. I'm not positive you can do a method call here, but you should be able to. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to show you this other thing, because I think when we did it last week, I've got Jacqueline's stuff up here. Where's GitHub? Is this GitHub? Yeah. So here you have auto gather equals true for cases. So does that mean that you're going to go through all the cases for what this auto gather would mean? It would go through all the case questions
for that child. Yeah.
For that child.
Before it moved on to the next child.
Yeah.
Which would make sense that would be a logical way to gather it.
Right. All right. I can try it again. I just could not get it to work at all. So I'll try it and see if I can get it to work. Because I think that, so when you do your income, all right, I just have a couple other, I think probably not so big questions. Wrong one. Here are the questions. Okay, so okay, that's all. This is all the same question. Okay. Oh, I didn't put it in here. Is there a way to know? Here it is. The modules. So when you do, how do you know which modules? So there's the base.util. There's a Docassemble. Sorry, .base.util, and there's a Docassemble. I think .base.core. So is there two questions? Is how do you know which one you need to use? And is there a way to look at them if you don't know how? How do you go about that?
Say it one more time, sorry.
So you've got, in some of the interviews I've seen, there's a docassemble.base.util, and there's another one that's docassemble.base.core. And I didn't see anything in the documentation that says, well, use one or the other or both.
Yep, great question. I think that you no longer need to do that at all. So I think one included the other already. So util already included core. And when we were talking, Jonathan and I, about documentation and making it a little easier to read, one idea we came up with was just making all those functions automatically available to you. So you no longer
if you've installed and configured Docassemble, all that stuff is available.
You don't have to worry about explicitly saying, I want to use the base.util module anymore. It's just automatically available in every interview.
That makes a lot of sense, because you can't, how else do you know what you have available, right? I guess you have that list on the right?
That's the answer. So if, and before, like that wouldn't have necessarily been, there would have been a lot of things missing. Like some of the basic functionality was missing if you didn't base.util.
Well, and also you don't, if it's not in the list, you don't know that it's in Docassemble. You don't know if it's in base.util. So do you go write one on your, there was no description anywhere as far as I could tell of what these modules have. So it was like, I did eventually find that child list is an already existing list. But, otherwise you just make things up because you don't know that they're already there, and that sort of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. So you don't even have to put docassemble.base.util in anymore. That's
always in part of every interview. Yep.
Okay. All right. And is that with the latest up? If we upgraded in the last couple of weeks, will that be on our server then? Anyway?
Yes. Yeah, it was like a couple months ago, I think that was put in.
Oh, okay. I know Kendall upgraded just before the summer, so we should.
Before LitCon, I know that. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty sure he did that. He did it, and then he checked and said he had already done it, so that was good. Okay, I think those are my questions. I just kind of have to keep banging my head against the wall on this auto gather thing. because I just don't know why I keep forgetting it. Like I get it, and then I go to put it in the syntax, and I can't figure it out. But that code block does make sense, and then also that you can do it different ways. So that's probably why I'm seeing it. So, okay, I'm gonna keep working on this and carry on.
All right, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, well, I will not see anybody next week because I'll be at a conference. But hope everybody has a good couple weeks. And I
Enjoy your conference. I think that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think we'll be back.
Thanks.
Start back on the 26th. So talk with you then.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Quentin. Nice talking to you, Matt.
You too. Thank you both. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.